The mistreatment and isolation that Joel Rifkin endured molded him into one of New York City's most crazed serial killers. It started with demented daydreams about murdering women and soon became reality when he bludgeoned his first prostitute to death in 1989. And with that, I'm Cassie.
I'm Sara. Now let's talk about New York City's Ripper, Joel Rifkin. Joel Rifkin was born on January 20th, 1959 to two unwed college students. New York couple Bernard and Janine Rifkin adopted Joel 3 weeks after his birth. In 1965, the family moved to East Meadow, Long Island, where Joel enrolled in Prospect Avenue Elementary School. He had difficulty fitting in with his peers and became a frequent target of school bullies. He was excluded from team sports and neighborhood games because of his sloping posture and slow gait. Suffering from undiagnosed dyslexia, he also struggled academically despite his 128 IQ. As Joel entered his teens, he desperately tried to fit in. He joined the track team with hopes of making friends, but his teammates frequently tormented him. Frustrated with athletics, he joined the yearbook staff. His camera was immediately stolen, and he was excluded from the rap party at the end of the year.
Joel kind of had it hard already. So he was adopted, and then when he got into school, they kind of bullied him and ostracized him. So I feel like that already would have been difficult because I don't know how he felt about being adopted like later on in life. Maybe he felt like he didn't belong, then mixed with like his bullying in school, and he wasn't allowed to but they wouldn't let him on sports and things like that because of how he was, and everyone kind of just thought he was a strange guy. So that kind of already isolated him a lot.
Yeah, and that just started.
We know that that's like. Yeah, isolation is really, really bad for young kids. Yeah, and just people were awful to him, and then they would take his camera and then they didn't even invite him to the end of the year party.
Yeah, because they probably didn't believe that somebody stole it, and they're like, you took it or whatever. Yeah, effed up and
crazy. So there's that, but then he was also extremely smart.
128,
which I don't know what normal is.
I don't know.
I don't know. But anyways, so very smart mixed with isolation. Is like a recipe for disaster.
Not a good combo.
I mean, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, like in the serial killer cases we read about, it's not the best. So yeah, let's kind of read on a little bit more. But just think about already, he's already got it pretty rough.
The mistreatment and isolation eventually wore on Joel, and he began retreating to his own disturbed world. He started having daydreams about raping and stabbing women. In 1972, inspired by the Alfred Hitchcock film Frenzy, he became fixated on the idea of strangling prostitutes. Why do you think he started having all these daydreams all of a sudden?
I don't know. Again, we don't have everything from his entire childhood, but it seems like a drastic jump from being in isolation to all of a sudden being obsessed with stabbing and raping and murdering women. I don't know if it's because he probably wasn't close to any females, growing up besides his mom and his sister, but girls at school and stuff. So maybe it was a hormonal thing.
Maybe
I don't know, but I don't think. It says that his ideas eventually were inspired by the movie, so maybe he watched other movies that kind of had this, and then he started daydreaming about that. I don't know. I feel like it's a really drastic jump from just being bullied to daydreaming about strangling prostitutes. So he was very smart, and he had a lot going on. He had undiagnosed dyslexia, so who knows what else he could have had. He could have had other mental illnesses going on that we don't know about.
I definitely feel like he had depression and anxiety.
Oh yeah, if he was bullied all the time, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Around the same time, his parents gave him a car, and he started using the vehicle to troll for prostitutes in nearby Hempstead and later Manhattan. His passion for prostitutes would increase as he entered Nassau Community College in 1977. He frequently skipped his classes and rarely showed up to his part-time jobs, preferring to spend his time with prostitutes instead. This obsession drained what little money he had, causing him to move in and out of his parents' house throughout the 1980s. He also bounced from school to school, earning poor grades until he finally dropped out in 1984. By March 1989, Joel could no longer fight the violent mental fantasies. He waited for his mother to leave on a business trip and then picked up a young prostitute named Susie. He brought the woman back to his Long Island home, where he bludgeoned her with a howitzer artillery shell. When she continued to struggle, he strangled her to death. He then dismembered Susie with an X-Acto knife, removing her identity by severing her fingertips and removing her teeth with pliers. He hid her severed head in an old paint can and stashed the rest of her body into garbage bags. Joel dumped Susie's head and legs in the woods in Hopewell, New Jersey, and tossed the arms and torso into the East River back in New York. Despite his elaborate attempts to conceal the murder, a member of the Hopewell Valley Golf Club found the can containing Susie's head several days later. Police were unable to uncover the victim's identity or who was responsible for the murder.
His first murder was kind of well done. That actually wasn't the word I was going to use, but it kind of just came out. But like, when you look at what he did, it was pretty smart. I feel like a lot of serial killers we talk about are very like
sloppy and just kind of go with the flow sort of. But he you definitely know he planned like
actually took his time. It wasn't just like a spur of the moment thing.
Like it was I'm not gonna say clean because obviously there was blood everywhere. But I feel like this was like the cleanest. Like, do you get it?
Yeah, like it was it wasn't just like sloppy. It wasn't just everywhere.
It wasn't a sloppy job.
Because he severed her fingertips off, took her teeth so they couldn't identify her. Like that, I don't think we've read about a serial killer yet that had like done that for their very first time.
Like all the other serial killers are like, I'm gonna hide them really well.
Yeah.
Because nobody's gonna find them. That he took the time to like.
She was still found pretty quickly, but they couldn't tell who she was or who murdered her because of what he had done, which. Again, it's just crazy, which I feel like also then shows how smart he actually was. Like he actually, I don't want to say did it well, but for a murder like this,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
an X-Acto knife. Yeah. Oh, that's the goosebumps.
Yeah, I gives you the goosebumps when you really think about it.
A year later, Joel claimed his second victim, prostitute Julie Blackbird. Again, waiting until his mother was out of town, he drove Julie to his Long Island home. The next morning, he beat Julie with a table leg before strangling her. He dismembered her corpse as before, but this time he placed the body parts in buckets weighted with concrete and tossed the remains into the East River and a Brooklyn canal. Joel started his own landscaping business in 1991, and he began using the rented job site to stash corpses until he could properly dispose of them. So he literally started his own landscaping company just to stash the bodies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, probably the money on the side that was good because he was spending all of it, but
I think the main purpose was the bodies.
And again, incredibly smart. Like, how smart is that to start a business where you're constantly like digging in the ground and like changing things so you can just stash dead bodies or parts of bodies there and people never know because they think that you're just working on their lawn.
That's ridiculous.
Pretty smart.
Like, I wonder how many families are like, oh my gosh, he did landscaping work.
That's
like now I need to like go dig up my backyard or my front yard.
Yeah, like, are there any bodies in my backyard? I hate to say that he's smart because, like, he's a serial killer.
Yeah, but he's smart.
But, like,
nobody else thought of, like, creating a company as, like, a cover.
I haven't heard of anyone yet. There's so many people out there. Yeah. But pretty smart.
Among his victims during this year were prostitutes Barbara Jacobs, Mary Ellen DeLuca, and Yoon Lee. He would go on to strangle 17 women, most of whom were drug addicts or prostitutes. The police were rarely able to identify the victims, much less the perpetrator of the crimes. In June 1993, Joel strangled hooker Tiffany Brashani and drove her back to his mother's home, stopping at stores along the way for rope and tarp while Tiffany's corpse laid in the backseat of his mother's car. By the time he got home, she was wrapped in the tarp and concealed in the trunk. He moved her into the garage, leaving her body in a wheelbarrow in the summer heat for 3 days. He was on his way to dump the corpse about 15 miles north of his home when police troopers noticed he was missing a rear license plate on his truck. When police attempted to pull Joel over, he began a high-speed chase instead. Panicked, he crashed his car into a utility pole in front of a local courthouse. As troopers came up to the car, they detected a strong odor from the back of his trunk. It came from Tiffany's rotting corpse, and police took him into custody.
So Joel strangled another prostitute.
Yes.
He had her in his car, well, his mother's car, and then like on the way home from wherever he was stopping and getting like rope and tarp. So this woman was just laying in the backseat of his car.
I guess I would be freaked out if I was him. I wouldn't do that.
I mean, he could have, I guess, had like a blanket or something over her, but the way it sounds is that she was just laying there.
I mean, I hope nobody saw her. Because if I saw her, I'd be like, oh, she's taking a snooze in the backseat of the car.
I mean, yeah, because I guess at this point, like, he had just strangled her. I don't think he had removed anything. So there shouldn't be any blood. So I guess it would have been, like, easier to say, oh, she's just sleeping. But then we move on to, like, his police interaction. You have a corpse in your trunk, and you're just going about your business, and the police are pulling you over because you have a missing license plate.
Well, first, he's super smart. We've come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Why would he panic so easily? You feel like he would play it cool like every other person.
But maybe because he knew that she smelled so bad. So that there was, like, no choice. Like, he knew that if they came close to the car, they were going to smell something. But yeah, he did panic quite easily, which is surprising. And I'm surprised he didn't notice the license plate. Like, he didn't know that there wasn't a license plate back there.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
You know what I mean? Like, he's very smart, like we've said.
I guess everybody overlooks something.
I know. But I just think it's interesting. I guess if you don't ever look at the back of your car.
No, I never.
And it wasn't his car, it was his mom's.
Homicide detectives began interrogating Joel on June 28, 1993. He described all 17 murders, writing out the names he remembered, and even sketching maps to help police find those victims still missing. He was transferred to the Nassau County Correctional Facility in East Meadow to prepare to stand trial. On May 9, 1994, Joel was sentenced to 25 years to life for murder, as well as reckless endangerment for leading police on a car chase. He was transferred to Suffolk County Jail shortly after the trial, where he pleaded guilty to 2 more counts of murder. He received 2 more consecutive terms of 25 years to life in prison. By January 1996, he was scheduled to serve at least 183 years for 7 slayings, with 10 counts outstanding. That same year, after several conflicts with other inmates, prison officials decided that Joel's presence at the prison was disruptive. He was placed in solitary confinement at the Attica Correctional Facility for 23 hours a day over the course of 4 years. In 2000, Joel attempted to sue the prison for violating his constitutional rights, saying that he should not be placed in solitary confinement. The court ruled in favor of the prison. Correction officials say he is now imprisoned with more than 200 other inmates who are not allowed to mix with the general prison population. Joel is now serving 203 years in the Clinton Correctional Facility. He is eligible for parole in the year 2197 at the age of 238. He gets caught, and he just gives all the names of the women he killed, and writes out a map to where to find them.
Yeah. First of all, he ended up murdering 17 women roughly. I mean, there could have been more.
Yeah.
We don't know, but but then for him to just like give everything, maybe he just thought, oh,
I got caught, there's nothing I can do.
There's no point. I might as well maybe he had like I won't say a conscience, but like kind of like maybe he thought, oh, at least like I'm going to jail, at least let these people be known that they're dead or whatever. I don't know. Like, why else would you throw yourself under the bus like that?
I don't know, or maybe he's like, yeah, I murdered 17 women. Go what here? Like just
yeah. Maybe he thought giving them all the information he'd get like a deal or something. I don't know, because I feel like if they had only found, say, the one that was in his car, he wouldn't have gotten how many years? 183 years, right? Like maybe still been life, but not 183 years. I don't know.
He's
to his life in prison.
Yes.
It's interesting because he ends up being so disruptive
that he gets prison officials are like, you gotta go. So they put him in solitary confinement for 23 hours out of the day for 4 years straight.
It feels a little messed up.
Yeah. I mean, yes, he did terrible things.
Yeah.
And I know prison isn't great. I haven't been to prison, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
But I know it can't be great.
No. But 23 hours every day, like.
And is the 1 hour his outside time?
Probably.
Like, I feel like that even
outside and maybe shower time.
I don't know, but I feel like that's like.
I don't know, like it.
Not abuse, but
kind of like.
That's like mistreatment right there.
It's like weird to say like about a serial killer because they deserve
nothing.
Like they deserve solitary confinement, but at the same time it's like
23 hours out of the day.
You would think because of his like childhood where he was like mistreated and had isolation, like he would have been kind of like a
little wary of how he acted, so really he didn't have to experience that again.
And not really like talk to people. So for him to then go into jail and be so disruptive, I don't know. I'm just trying to like picture what he would have been doing. Yeah, I don't know.
If you want to hear about another smart serial killer, make sure you go check out our other video about Ted Bundy. It'll be right here.
We will see you guys next week. Peace.